have been trying to lift weights for a couple of weeks now, and I am curious about how much more weight men can lift compared to women. I know men are generally physically stronger than women, but I want to understand exactly how much more strength men have. Story 1. Women's weights are normally 60% of men's. It depends on the lift, though. Strict press and some upper body exercises will be different compared to squat and deadlift. Story 2. As a father who has not lifted seriously since before my daughter was born, 275-pound bench press, 315-pound squat, 385-pound deadlift. I really should get back into it now that my daughter is able to be left alone for more than half an hour without any issues. Story 3. Judging by your username, you might appreciate an objective comparison. I would compare men and women of similar weight classes competing in the International Powerlifting Federation or International Weightlifting Federation. For example, for 63-kilogram women, the squat record is 214 kilograms. For 59-kilogram men, the squat record is 240 kilograms. Story 4. Obviously, you need to specify a particular lift to get accurate answers. Anyone who could give an actual answer in pounds for a specific lift would not be an average man. He would be someone who lifts weights and therefore stronger than most. I consider myself fairly average. I don't work out but have a somewhat physical job. One day, my sister-in-law was over and picked up both of my kids, who were probably 5 and 7 at the time. She had one child on each side and was quite pleased with herself. I walked over and picked her up while she was still holding the kids. She was less pleased with herself. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that shows how much stronger I am than her. Story 5 really varies based on the muscle group. As a 6'3" lanky individual, for main lifts with 8 repetitions per set, which I usually strive for: bench press, 185 pounds. Squat, 225 pounds. Romanian deadlifts, 205 pounds. Lat pull-downs, 140 pounds. Rows, 130 pounds. Curls, 100 pounds. Skull crushers, 80 pounds. Story 6. I maintain doing no more than 225 pounds for major lifts: squats, deadlifts, and bench press. I can do more for squats and deadlifts, but I rarely feel the need. Story 7. I have a large grocery bag that holds a week's worth of groceries in one bag. I originally intended it as a way to keep the smaller grocery store bags from falling over in my back seat. I have a Ford pickup truck, and putting groceries in the bed is a mistake. Over time, I found it easier to carry the entire large bag at once rather than run back and forth to grab the smaller bags out of it. It also saves on grocery store bags. After an average trip, it probably weighs 50 pounds. I can usually manage it easily out of the truck using both arms, then carry it with one hand, though it takes both arms to lift it gracefully onto the counter for unpacking. I am also able to easily lift our travel luggage onto the top rack in the bus at the airport. That weighs 30 pounds. Story 8. I have been lifting for almost 30 years, so my numbers are skewed. Average guys in my gym can deadlift their body weight, for example, 180 pounds, typically for 8 repetitions. Deadlifts are probably the best measure of overall strength since they activate many muscle groups. Story 9. Your question did not specify which lift, and I assume you are a woman. Most men are capable of bench pressing 225 pounds during their lifting career, while women are likely to bench press 135 pounds. That being said, there are exceptionally strong men, and the sky is the limit. Genetically gifted men can bench press between 315 and 500 pounds. In contrast, an exceptionally strong woman may bench press 225 pounds, which I have never personally seen at a gym. Therefore, men are generally significantly stronger. Story 10. I'm going to give you a few exercises that I typically do for my first set at the gym. Bicep curls, 35 pounds. Dumbbell shoulder press, 30 pounds. Dumbbell chest press, 60 pounds. Squat rack, 200 pounds. Deadlift, 150 pounds. Lateral pull down, 180 pounds. Some people probably lift much more than that, but I consider myself somewhat above average in strength. Story 11. It really all depends on training, what you're lifting, what muscles you're using, and so on. For example, I could have a 200-kilogram deadlift, but I would still struggle with carrying a large, heavy box simply because of how the weight sits in my arms. When you are lifting weights, it is all about growth. When I started, I could barely bench the bar, and now I bench 2 plates with consistent training. The natural strength difference between a woman and a man is significant. That is one of the main reasons people advocate for sex-separated sports competitions rather than gender-separated. If you want to find the difference, you can search for female weightlifting world records versus male. If you are just looking for bench press, squat, and deadlift numbers, then I do 100, 100, and 160 kilograms respectively. Yes, I know I need to squat more often. Story 12. Now I have no idea as I do not lift weights anymore. I do all cardio for now, but back when I used to lift, I could bench press 240 pounds. I do not think I have ever seen a woman do 1 plate 135 pounds. Maybe one, I do not know. I have seen women do some impressive squats, however. Story 13. I saw a statistic where men are 50% stronger in the upper body, with the advantage being slightly less for the lower body at 40%. Story 14. That really depends on the lift, but here are the weights in pounds for sets of 8. Bicep curl, 40. Tricep pull down, 42.5. Bench press, 180. Shrugs, 110 dumbbells. Lateral raises, 30. Squat, 145. Calf raises, 495. Deadlift, 200. Hip thrusts, 225. Cable crunches, 110. Row, 165. Story 15. After being out for a while due to surgery, I have lost a lot of strength. I am currently working out with 180 pounds on the bench machine, which would probably be far less on the actual incline bench. This is down from about 210 pounds at the beginning of the year, but I started at around 130 pounds a few years ago after not working out at all since 2011, so it is a marked improvement. Story 16. The women's bench press record from a quick search is 303 pounds. While very impressive, that is not an unachievable personal record for a dedicated male gymgoer to reach, and I would assume that is consistent among most lifts. Story 17. I started deadlifting at the gym again 2 weeks ago. I pulled 405 pounds for a single. My back was not very happy with me about that, but it was a good rep. I rarely have someone to spot me, so I cannot really attempt my maximum bench press. On my last bench day, my sets with 225 pounds were 10, 9, and 5. I have no idea what my squat is. My knees are not ready for it. Last week on the leg press, I did 4 plates on each side for 3 sets of 15 and did calf raises with the same weight. I did not count the reps for calf raises, but I probably did around 75 reps. I have very large calves from mountain bike riding in my youth. This number is likely well outside of any average range. Story 18. Average makes it sound low. I can flat bench 115 kilograms for about 6 repetitions. But then there is an isolated shoulder exercise with cables where 4 kilograms is the maximum. Story 19. I guess it depends on the lift. Pretty much any upper body lift, the person will be stronger, all things being equal. Maybe if you provide some lift examples, it might be easier to get an idea. For me, I have been deliberately lifting for almost 4 years. I am 5 feet 5 or 6 inches tall and weigh about 155 pounds. I can squat at my best 375 pounds a few times to parallel or below. For the bench press, I have done 275 pounds a few times without bouncing it off my chest, and with my butt on the bench at 160 pounds. Story 20. My bench press maximum is about 255 pounds. For deadlift, I never really test my maximum. I did 335 pounds for 3 repetitions in my last working set today. My squat is around 315 pounds if I want to maintain decent form. Other exercises include bicep curls, where I use dumbbells ranging from 20 to 35 pounds. Front squats feel awkward to hold more than about 155 pounds on the bar, so I usually stop there. For the overhead press, I do not do many, but I usually perform sets of 115 pounds. I have been lifting for about a year and a half but did powerlifting in the past. I am 41 years old and weigh 187 pounds. Story 21. I have not been to the gym in a while, but I am a relatively built guy, kind of a dad bod if you understand. I recently carried my fully wet generator across the lawn when a tornado knocked out the power. I guess it was around 100 pounds or so. That was similar to a deadlift position. I am not sure if I could have done it in any other form. Story 22. I'm a former competitive lifter and my best lifts were 695, 545, and 765 pounds in the squat, bench press, and deadlift respectively. To put things in a broader perspective, most high school boys with 2 to 3 solid years of proper training will be as strong or stronger than the strongest women in the world, more or less. However, most are not training properly. Story 23. The strange thing about me is that I can lift more as I get tired up to a certain point. When I feel very tired, things seem lighter. I would estimate that the average is around 40 kilograms with both arms and about 15 kilograms with each arm. Story 24. When I was going to the gym, I would do a 75 kilogram bench press, 20 kilogram bicep curls, 60 kilogram dumbbell rows, 75 kilogram Romanian deadlifts, and a 60 kilogram farmer's carry. I did other smaller lifts too, but those were the biggest ones. I was lifting weights for about 6 months and was very skinny. Story 25. I do not know, but I can carry her from the kitchen to the bedroom and still have enough strength to satisfy her. Story 26. There is no point in taking a random sample of people and asking them how much they can lift without specifying the type of lift, then using that data to determine the strength difference between genders. The only way to determine this is to obtain the strongest lifting record holders by gender, assuming one or more per gender. This assumes these records represent the maximum lifting capacity of each gender because no one has surpassed them. Also, assume record holders have trained to their maximum physiological potential. Then, calculate the percentage difference between the genders across all types of lifts. The average of these percentages would approximate the difference in optimal strength potential between genders. Story 27. Anecdote. Years ago, I dated a bodybuilder. She was very muscular. I was about 40 pounds overweight and running up 3 flights of stairs made me sweat. One day we play wrestled and I pinned her in 20 seconds. We are much stronger. Story 28. About 200 pounds is approximately the average weight I can lift. I have been lifting since I was 7 years old and have worked heavy labor jobs. My maximum weight in my late teens and early 20s was 365 pounds. Now I am older and have spinal problems, but I still work out and exercise daily. Story 29. On average, women have about 55 to 60% of the upper body strength of men and about 70 to 75% of the lower body strength of men when comparing individuals of similar body weight and age. Story 30. Average of what? This question makes no sense. Am I supposed to take the total of all major lifts and average them? Story 31. Depends on the lift, but I can bench press 315 pounds, deadlift 500 pounds. I have no clue what my squat is anymore as I do not go heavy. I can overhead press around 195 pounds. Story 32. I used to lift weights but haven't done so for years. However, I work in heavy construction, so I am still somewhat in shape. I would say I can still bench press 100 kilograms, deadlift at least 120 kilograms, and squat the same amount if I went to the gym today. However, you never know, I could be weaker. Story 33. Right now at the gym for repetitions, I dumbbell press with the 75-pound weights, curl the 35-pound weights, squat 315 pounds, and overhead dumbbell press with the 65-pound weights. After the weights, I swing the sledgehammer at a tire in multiple directions to stay mobile. Story 34. Multiple times? I can bench about 40 to 41 kilograms multiple times. I can lift my friend who weighs about 80 to 90 kilograms for a few seconds. Story 35. About one of such large potato bags. Maybe 2 if I am trying to impress the girl guarding the self-checkout area. Story 36. As a trainer for a decade, typically natural men who are ongoing gym members for more than 3 years have a 225-pound bench press, a 315-pound squat, and a 405-pound deadlift. Women have a 135-pound bench press, a 225-pound squat, and a 280 to 300 pound deadlift. Story 37. Depends on the lift. Take your pick and compare. On a day when I am rested and feeling good, I lift using a split routine, not all on the same day. 1. Leg press, a little over 900 pounds. 2. Belt squat, 415 pounds. 3. Hip thrusts, 585 pounds. 4. Isometric plate-loaded shoulder press, 115 pounds per side. 5. Barbell upright rows, 155 pounds. 6. Bent over barbell rows, 295 pounds. 7. Barbell shrugs, 505 pounds. Standing calf raises, 315 pounds. 9. Cable face pulls, 105 pounds. 10. Dumbbell hammer curls, 80 pounds per arm. I do many other lifts too, but this should give you a good idea. For more context, I am seeing a woman who weighs 133 pounds. She did not think I could pick her up. I picked her up off my couch in the living room and easily carried her all the way into the bedroom and placed her gently on the bed. She was in disbelief. Story 38. Probably better to give what I started with. The first few weeks of going to the gym a few years ago, I was doing squats at 60 kilograms, 5 sets of 5 repetitions. Bench press at 45 kilograms, 5 sets of 5 repetitions. Deadlift at 80 kilograms, 5 sets of 5 repetitions. Overhead press at 30 kilograms, 5 sets of 5 repetitions. And bent over row at 40 kilograms, 5 sets of 5 repetitions, probably weighing around 70 to 75 kilograms at the time. Story 39. I have never really lifted weights other than in college, but I worked for a while managing a high-end audiovisual shop. I regularly carried 230-pound televisions, especially around Christmas. Story 40. There is a web page called Strength Level. It has all the statistics on what people who lift weights can lift depending on their sex, age, and weight, and by different types of lifts such as deadlift, bench press, and hammer curl. There are many exercises included. Story 41. When I was consistently going to the gym, I managed the following: deadlift, 180 kilograms or 397 pounds. Squat, 130 kilograms or 285 pounds. Bench press, 120 kilograms or 265 pounds. Now, going to the gym inconsistently with occasional breaks, I would still likely manage about 80 to 90% of those. Story 42. I'm 3 months into a weightlifting routine, having never done any real strength training before. I am currently 35 years old. I do 5 sets of 8 repetitions of the following exercises: deadlift, 240 pounds. Bench press, 190 pounds. Squats, 225 pounds. Overhead press, 120 pounds. I rotate between these exercises, including some resistance band workouts for biceps and triceps. I also enjoy running and climbing mountains, usually not taking a single day off during the week. These numbers are nothing to brag about. Many people, both men and women, exceed these weights. However, this is where I am at the beginning of my fitness journey. Story 43. Can you clarify the question? I can do about 12 repetitions on the dumbbell bench press using the 125-pound dumbbells. I rarely see a woman doing more than about 20-pound dumbbells for as many repetitions. Does that make me 6 times stronger than the average woman? In a squat and deadlift situation, I can certainly outlift women that I consider great female athletes, but the difference is not even twice as much. I can maybe do about 4 times more than a girl who has trained for 6 months and started to use 95 pounds. Then you could also be talking about the application of force, and things could get more complicated to measure. I weigh almost twice my wife, so I have twice as much mass, also distributed differently, which allows me to do some tasks much easier. Story 44. I can pull double my body weight quite comfortably after improving my cardiovascular fitness. I currently weigh 155 kilograms. I am on a weight loss journey, and I doubt I will be able to lift as much when I lose weight. Story 45. I like to joke that I have farmer strength. I cannot bench press much. After growing up as a farm kid and working as a rig hand by age 15, then moving into construction, it is pretty amazing sometimes what a person can move or what I see similar workers move. Story 46. The question should take into account that men are heavier on average, so it is easier for men to move mass. However, probably a 5 to 10% increase is possible at the same body weight. Story 47. 1 rep maxes. Bench press 350 pounds. Squat 515 pounds. Deadlift 575 pounds. 3 rep range. Bench press 315 pounds. Squat 500 pounds. Deadlift 545 pounds. I am 25 years old and have been working out on and off for 7 years. I used to be skinny, but now I weigh 251 pounds with 23% body fat. I kind of look like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises, and I like how I look now. Story 48. When I was 17, I was able to lift 100 kilograms off the ground to my knees completely untrained. I had been challenged to do it by another man who, along with his brother, lifted weights. You should have seen the look of shock on his face. The thing was, I lived on a hill and rode bicycles for years as a teenager. I think that helped. Story 49. The average man is generally stronger than the average woman, but the degree varies depending on the specific measure of strength and whether you are looking at absolute or relative strength. Here are some commonly cited averages from peer-reviewed studies. Upper body strength. Men tend to have about 50 to 60% more upper body strength than women. This includes differences in shoulder, chest, and arm muscle mass, and performance in exercises like bench press or pull-ups. Lower body strength. The difference is smaller, with men having about 30 to 40% more lower body strength on average. Women are often closer in performance in exercises like squats or leg presses, especially when matched by weight class. Muscle mass. On average, men have about 30 to 40% more muscle mass overall, primarily due to higher testosterone levels. Men also tend to have a higher proportion of muscle in the upper body, while women store more fat in the hips and thighs. Strength to weight ratio. If normalized for body weight, the gap narrows, but men still generally outperform women due to higher lean body mass and differences in muscle fiber type and tendon structure. Summary. Absolute strength. Men are roughly 40 to 60% stronger. Relative strength per pound of body weight, men are 20 to 30% stronger. These are averages. Individual variation can be large. For example, trained women can outperform untrained men in many strength tasks. Story 50. I honestly do not know. Lifting weights sounds unappealing to me. I can lift my 2 teenagers at once, which is about 250 to 275 pounds. During rehabilitation on a knee, I maxed out a squat rack available at 300 pounds and felt I could do more. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.